After my husband's funeral, I saw my in-laws moving in. My mother-in-law said, "This is ours now. Leave." But, little did they know. Have you ever felt your world crumble in an instant? Julie thought she had faced the worst when a tragic accident took her mother and left her father disabled. But life had more trials in store for her. From rebuilding her life with her father to finding love with Paul, Julie finally thought she had carved out a slice of happiness, until the harsh judgment of her in-laws threatened to unravel it all. And just when she believed things couldn't get any worse, a devastating phone call shattered her world again, leaving her alone to pick up the pieces. Julie's life began in a small suburban town, surrounded by the warmth of her loving parents, Larry and Joanna David. Her father, Larry, was a talented journalist with a knack for storytelling, while her mother, Joanna, worked tirelessly as a nurse, always putting others before herself. Though the family wasn't wealthy, their modest home was filled with laughter, love, and dreams for the future. Julie grew up as an only child, adored by her parents and nurtured by their unwavering support. She was a bright and curious girl, excelling in school and finding joy in the simple pleasures of life: bike rides through the neighborhood, family movie nights, and baking cookies with her mom. Her father often encouraged her to dream big, and her mother instilled in her the importance of kindness and resilience. Life seemed picture-perfect until the day it all changed. At 14, Julie's normal world was ripped apart when a drunk driver collided with her parents' car on their way home from a dinner party. The crash claimed her mother's life instantly and left her father severely injured, confined to a wheelchair for the rest of his life. That evening marked the end of Julie's carefree childhood. In the aftermath of the tragedy, Julie's father transformed into her rock and her anchor. Despite his physical limitations, Larry threw himself into his work as an editor at a major newspaper, determined to provide for Julie and ensure she had every opportunity to succeed. Their bond grew stronger as they navigated life's challenges together. Larry encouraged Julie to pursue her dreams, even when she hesitated to leave him behind for college. At the State University of New York, Julie majored in accounting and quickly made friends, including Emma, who would become her best friend. Through Emma, Julie met Paul Walker, a kind and funny man who seemed to understand her in ways no one else had. Paul admired Julie's strength and was charmed by her close relationship with her father. They fell in love, and for the first time since the accident, Julie allowed herself to dream of a future filled with love, stability, and happiness. After college, Julie landed a job at a local tax service, and Paul began working as a long-haul truck driver. Their relationship blossomed over 4 years, culminating in a romantic proposal in the park where they had their first date. When Julie expressed her commitment to caring for her father, Paul didn't hesitate. "We'll all live together," he said with a smile. "I wouldn't have it any other way." Their small, intimate wedding was a testament to their love and resilience. Larry insisted on wheeling himself down the aisle to give Julie away, a moment that brought tears to everyone's eyes. Despite the joy of their union, dark clouds loomed on the horizon. Paul's mother, Maria, and sister, Olivia, made it clear from the start that they didn't approve of Julie or her father. Their snide remarks and thinly veiled insults hinted at the challenges that lay ahead. For now, though, Julie focused on the life she and Paul were building together. With her father by their side, they created a home filled with love, laughter, and a shared determination to overcome whatever obstacles came their way. Little did Julie know, the trials she had faced so far were only the beginning. It was a rainy Friday evening, one of those nights when the world felt heavy and silent. 14-year-old Julie was curled up on the couch with her grandmother, watching an old cartoon. The sound of raindrops tapping against the windows added a soothing rhythm to the evening. Her parents were out at a dinner party, a rare night for themselves, leaving Julie content with the comfort of home. The phone rang, breaking the tranquility. Julie glanced at her grandmother, who paused before answering. "Hello," her grandmother said, her voice calm but hesitant. Julie watched as her grandmother's expression shifted, first confusion, then worry, and finally a deep, heartbreaking sadness. Her grandmother hung up the phone and turned away, but Julie could hear the quiet sobs. Her heart began to race as she approached the kitchen. Grandma? What's wrong? She asked, her voice trembling. Her grandmother turned, her eyes red and glistening with tears. It's your parents, sweetheart. There's been an accident. Time seemed to freeze. Julie didn't understand, and couldn't process the words. What do you mean? Are they okay? Her grandmother hesitated, then knelt to Julie's level. Your mom didn't make it, Julie, she said softly. Your dad, he's alive, but he's hurt very badly. Julie's world shattered in that instant. The days that followed were a blur. There were visits from concerned neighbors, the oppressive silence of their once lively home, and trips to the hospital that seemed to stretch on forever. Her father, Larry, had survived, but the injuries he suffered were life-altering. His legs were crushed, and the doctors said he would never walk again. When Julie finally saw him, he was unrecognizable, pale, frail, and surrounded by a maze of medical equipment. Tears filled her eyes as she approached his bedside. Dad, she whispered, her voice cracking. Larry reached out a trembling hand and held hers tightly. Julie, he rasped, his voice weak but filled with emotion. I'm so sorry, sweetie. I'm so sorry. She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. It wasn't your fault, Dad. But as Julie grew older, she realized what her father had meant. He wasn't apologizing for the accident, he was apologizing for the life they were now forced to navigate without her mother, for the challenges they would face, and for the father he believed he could no longer be. The loss of Joanna marked the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with challenges neither Julie nor Larry had anticipated. After weeks in the hospital, Larry returned home in a wheelchair. Their cozy, two-story house now seemed like an obstacle course, forcing them to adapt to every aspect of their lives. But Larry was determined not to let his disability define him. He threw himself into his work as an editor, channeling his grief and frustration into his writing. He encouraged Julie to focus on her education and her future, even as they both struggled to adjust to their new reality. Despite the weight of their circumstances, Larry made sure Julie still felt supported and loved. For Julie, the accident was a painful awakening. She had to grow up quickly, taking on responsibilities she had never imagined. From helping her father with daily tasks to managing the household, her carefree childhood was replaced by a life of resilience and responsibility. Yet, amid their pain, Julie and Larry grew closer, their bond unbreakable as they leaned on each other for strength. Years later, as Julie looked back on that rainy night, she realized it was the moment everything changed. It was the moment her life split into before and after. It was the moment she began to understand the fragility of life and the strength of the human spirit. That phone call had been the catalyst, setting her on a path filled with trials, heartbreak, and, ultimately, a resilience she never knew she had. Julie's life after her mother's death and her father's accident was a testament to resilience and adaptability. She focused on her studies, worked hard, and leaned on her father's unwavering support. Through their shared grief, Julie and Larry built a bond that could withstand any storm. Years later, as she embarked on her college journey, Larry encouraged her to live her life fully, despite his physical limitations. It was during these years that Julie met Paul, a kind and supportive man who saw not only her strength, but also the deep love she shared with her father. Paul and Julie's relationship blossomed quickly, culminating in a heartfelt proposal and a life they began to build together. However, their joy was soon met with challenges in the form of Paul's family, his mother, Maria, and sister, Olivia. From the moment Julie met them, their disapproval was palpable. Maria questioned Julie's worth, fixating on Larry's disability as though it defined Julie and her family. "So your father is handicapped," Maria said during their first meeting, her nose wrinkling as if the very idea offended her. "He's disabled," Julie corrected, keeping her voice steady despite the simmering anger beneath the surface. "And he's an incredible father." Paul defended Julie, but Maria and Olivia's disdain lingered. The passive-aggressive remarks and barely concealed hostility became a regular feature at family gatherings. While Paul stood by Julie's side, his frequent absences due to his work as a long-haul truck driver left her to deal with their toxicity alone. As time went on, Julie found herself navigating an increasingly delicate balancing act. She managed her job, cared for her father, and tried to keep the peace with Maria and Olivia, all while maintaining her marriage. Paul, ever supportive, recognized the strain but struggled to find a solution that would ease Julie's burden. The situation reached a boiling point during a visit from Maria and Olivia. "It's a shame Paul could have done so much better," Julie overheard Maria whisper to Olivia one evening. "Now he's stuck with this girl and her crippled father." Julie's hands trembled with fury, but she said nothing, unwilling to disrupt the fragile equilibrium. Instead, she confided in Paul later that night, tears streaming down her face. "They hate me," she sobbed. "They think I'm not good enough for you because of Dad." Paul held her tightly, his jaw set with determination. "You and your dad are my family now," he said firmly. "If they can't accept that, it's their problem, not ours." Paul's words comforted Julie, but the tension with his family continued to escalate. Maria and Olivia's behavior reached a new low during a housewarming party at the townhouse Julie and Paul had recently purchased. The home was a labor of love, designed with Larry's needs in mind. It represented a fresh start, but Maria saw it as an opportunity to assert her dominance. "This would be perfect for Paul and me," Maria said, her tone dripping with condescension as she stood in the master bedroom. "Why don't you send your father to a nursing home? Then I could move in here." Julie was stunned into silence, but before she could respond, Maria marched out to the patio where Larry was chatting with guests. To Julie's horror, Maria grabbed the handles of Larry's wheelchair and began pushing him toward the driveway. "If he won't go to a nursing home, he can stay outside," Maria sneered. "Maria!" Julie shouted, running after her. "What are you doing?" The commotion drew Paul, who arrived just in time to see the scene unfold. His face turned red with anger as he stormed toward his mother. "Mom, let go of Larry's chair right now," he demanded. Maria froze, shocked by Paul's tone. I don't want to hear it," Paul cut her off. "You and Olivia need to leave. Now." After Maria and Olivia left, Paul apologized profusely to Julie and Larry. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice breaking. "I had no idea she would do something like this." Larry patted Paul's hand gently. "It's not your fault, son. Some people just don't understand." The incident marked a turning point. Maria and Olivia kept their distance, and Julie, Paul, and Larry settled into a new routine. Life seemed to stabilize as Paul's trucking business grew, and Julie focused on her work at the tax office and caring for her father. The townhouse became a sanctuary, a place where they could heal and thrive. But peace was short-lived. A phone call late one afternoon shattered Julie's world. "Mrs. Walker," a voice said on the other end. "This is Officer Andrew from the Highway Patrol. I'm sorry to inform you that your husband, Paul Walker, has been in a serious accident." The words didn't make it echoed in Julie's mind, but she couldn't grasp their meaning. The next days were a blur of grief and disbelief. Planning Paul's funeral felt like an out-of-body experience, made worse by Maria's response when Julie called to inform her of Paul's death. "This is your fault," Maria hissed over the phone. "You made him work so hard to pay for that fancy house. You killed my son." Maria's cruelty added salt to Julie's wounds, but she resolved to honor Paul's memory with dignity. On the day of the funeral, Maria and Olivia were conspicuously absent. Julie found solace in her father's presence, his hand squeezing hers as he whispered, "We'll get through this together." When Julie and Larry returned home after the funeral, they found Maria and Olivia inside the house, surrounded by packed boxes. "We're helping you pack," Maria said, feigning concern. "You can't possibly afford this place now." Julie's grief transformed into fury. "Get out of my house," she said, her voice shaking with anger. "Paul and I bought this home together. You have no right to be here." Maria smirked. "This isn't over. You'll be hearing from our lawyers." Despite their threats, Julie stood her ground. A week later, she met with a lawyer who revealed Paul's will. He had left everything to Julie, ensuring that she and Larry would be secure. The lawyer also handed her a letter from Paul, his words bringing her to tears. "You and Larry are my real family, Julie. I made this will to protect you from the people who could never understand what family truly means. Live your life to the fullest, and know I'll always be with you." Buoyed by Paul's love, Julie found the strength to confront Maria and Olivia one final time. When they arrived to demand Paul's estate, Julie met them at the door with confidence. "Paul left everything to me," she said firmly. "This is my home, and you are not welcome here." As they left, defeated, Julie felt a newfound sense of peace. Despite the pain and loss, she was determined to honor Paul's memory and build a life filled with love and resilience for herself, her father, and the baby she would soon discover she was carrying, a child who would carry Paul's legacy into the future. Julie thought she had endured every trial life could throw at her. From losing her mother to her father's disability and the toxic relationship with her in-laws, she had always found a way to persevere. But the devastating loss of Paul felt insurmountable. Her grief was a weight she carried every day, but amidst the sorrow, she found strength in the love Paul had left behind. The revelation of Paul's will was both a relief and a turning point. His meticulous preparation ensured that Julie and Larry would be secure, even in his absence. The letter he left for Julie became a lifeline, his words a reminder of his unwavering love and the strength he saw in her. Yet, this newfound security did not mean life became easier. Julie knew she had to protect the life they had built together, especially when Maria and Olivia continued to loom as potential threats. The tension came to a head one sunny afternoon. Julie had spent the morning tending to the vegetable garden, her father keeping her company from his favorite spot on the patio. The sunlight felt warm on her skin, a brief reprieve from the shadow of grief that still lingered. As she watered the plants, she noticed a sleek car pulling up to the driveway. Her heart sank as she recognized it. Maria and Olivia stepped out, their expressions unreadable but tinged with a strange desperation. Julie wiped her hands on her apron and walked to meet them on the porch, her heart pounding but her resolve firm. "Julie," Maria began, her voice lacking its usual sharpness. "We need to talk." Julie raised an eyebrow but said nothing, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably. Maria glanced at Olivia, who shifted nervously before speaking. "We've hit some hard times," Olivia admitted, her voice low. "We were wondering if we could stay in your father's old apartment. Just until we get back on our feet." Julie blinked, stunned by the audacity of their request. After everything they had put her through, they had the nerve to come asking for help. She took a deep breath, steadying herself before responding. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice calm but firm. "That's not possible." Maria's eyes narrowed. "Not possible? After all we've been through, you won't help us?" Julie laughed bitterly, shaking her head. "You mean after all you've put me through? You tried to take me home, insulted my father, and didn't even bother to show up for Paul's funeral. And now you want me to help you?" "No, Maria. That's not how this works." Maria's face twisted with anger, but her gaze suddenly dropped to Julie's growing belly. Her expression shifted to one of shock and disgust. "You're pregnant?" Maria spat. "Already? You little," she caught herself, but the venom in her tone was unmistakable. "I can't believe you've already moved on. Paul's body isn't even cold, and you're carrying someone else's child?" Julie's hands instinctively moved to her belly, and she felt a surge of protective anger. "This is Paul's child," she said evenly. "And even if it weren't, my personal life is none of your concern." Maria sneered. "A baby? From that crippled family of yours? It'll be a disgrace." Julie's jaw clenched, but she refused to rise to the bait. "This conversation is over. Please leave my property." Maria opened her mouth to retort, but Olivia tugged at her arm, whispering something urgently. Maria hesitated, then shot Julie one last venomous glare, before turning on her heel. As they drove away, Julie stood rooted to the spot, her heart racing. She felt a mix of anger, relief, and an unexpected sense of triumph. For the first time, she had stood up to them completely, without fear or hesitation. As the days turned into weeks, Julie poured her energy into preparing for her baby's arrival. The nursery became a symbol of hope and renewal, a bright spot amid her grief. Larry, ever her rock, was a constant source of encouragement and support. They worked together to create a space filled with love, determination, and the promise of a better future. One evening, as Julie was organizing baby clothes, her father wheeled into the room, his face thoughtful. "Julie," he said, his voice soft, "I've been thinking about Paul's journal. Have you looked at it again?" Julie nodded, her eyes misting over. "I read it every night, Dad. It's like he's still here, guiding me." Larry smiled gently. "He would be so proud of you. Of the life you're building." Julie felt a lump rise in her throat, but she managed to smile. "I just want to make sure this baby knows how incredible Paul was. I want them to feel his love, even if he's not here." Larry reached out and took her hand. "They will, sweetheart. Because you carry that love with you every day." Julie's pregnancy progressed, and with each passing month, she felt a growing sense of peace. The baby became a beacon of hope, a reminder of Paul's enduring love and their shared dreams. As the due date approached, Julie reflected on everything she had endured, the losses, the battles, the moments of despair, and realized how far she had come. The turning point wasn't just about confronting Maria and Olivia or even discovering Paul's will. It was about finding her strength, her voice. It was about recognizing that, despite the pain, she had the power to protect her family and build a future filled with love and resilience. On a crisp autumn morning, Julie went into labor. As she held her newborn baby for the first time, tears streamed down her face. She felt Paul's presence in the room, as though he were smiling down at them. "Welcome to the world," she whispered to the baby. "Your daddy would be so proud of you." Larry, standing by her side, placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You did it, Julie," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You've created something beautiful out of all this pain." At that moment, Julie knew she had reached the culmination of her journey. The trials and heartbreak had forged her into someone stronger, someone who could face any challenge with grace and determination. Holding her baby close, she whispered a silent promise to Paul. She would live a life that honored his love, his memory, and the future they had dreamed of together. The arrival of Julie's baby marked a new chapter in her life, one filled with hope and purpose. She named her son Paul, after his father, ensuring that his legacy would live on in their little family. Holding baby Paul in her arms, she felt a profound mix of love and determination. This child wasn't just her link to the man she had loved so deeply. He was a new beginning, a reminder that life, even after so much loss, could still bloom with joy. Julie and her father, Larry, quickly settled into their new routine. Larry took on the role of doting grandfather with enthusiasm, spending hours holding baby Paul, telling him stories, and humming lullabies. Watching the bond between her father and her son filled Julie with warmth. It was as though the pieces of her broken heart were slowly being stitched back together. Despite the peace they had found, there were lingering fears about Maria and Olivia. Their parting words haunted Julie, though she reminded herself of Paul's will and the solid foundation he had built for her and the baby. Still, she remained cautious, avoiding any unnecessary contact with them. Weeks turned into months, and with each passing day, Julie grew more confident in her ability to navigate life as a single mother. One afternoon, as she was preparing lunch, Julie heard a knock at the door. Her stomach tightened as she peeked through the window and saw Maria and Olivia standing on the porch. They looked different, less confident, more strained. Julie considered ignoring them, but decided against it. She wasn't the same woman who had once cowered under their judgment. She had found her strength. Opening the door, Julie stepped outside, keeping it slightly ajar behind her. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice calm but firm. Maria's gaze dropped to the ground before she spoke. "Julie, we wanted to apologize," she began, her voice quieter than Julie had ever heard it. "For everything." Olivia nodded, though her expression was more uncertain. "We've lost a lot, Julie. More than we ever realized. And, we're sorry for the way we treated you." For the things we said about your father, about Paul, about you. Julie studied them, unsure of their sincerity, but recognizing the weight of their words. It's taken you a long time to say this, she replied carefully. Why now? Maria sighed deeply, her age showing in the weariness on her face. Losing Paul broke something in us too. We've been trying to piece our lives back together, and it made us see how wrong we were. We don't expect you to forgive us, but we needed to tell you. Julie stood in silence for a moment, grappling with conflicting emotions. Part of her wanted to shut the door and never think of them again. But another part, perhaps the part Paul had loved most about her, reminded her that forgiveness wasn't about them, it was about letting go of the bitterness that could weigh her down. I appreciate your apology, she said finally. But my priority is my son and my father. I hope you find peace, but I need to focus on my family now. Maria's shoulders slumped, and she nodded. We understand, she said softly. Take care of yourself, Julie. With that, the two women left. Watching their car disappear down the street, Julie felt an unexpected sense of closure. She had faced them, heard their apology, and set her boundaries. The weight of their presence in her life seemed to lift, leaving her free to move forward. Over the next few months, Julie found a rhythm in her new life. Baby Paul grew quickly, filling their days with laughter and milestones. Larry became her greatest supporter, always ready with advice, a listening ear, or a playful distraction for the baby. Together, they created a home filled with love, warmth, and resilience. Julie often thought of Paul and the life they had planned. She missed him deeply, but his presence was woven into the fabric of their lives. She found comfort in the journal he had left behind, its pages filled with dreams and hopes for their family. She made a quiet promise to fulfill those dreams in whatever way she could. One sunny morning, Julie sat in the garden, holding baby Paul on her lap as Larry admired the vibrant flowers they had planted together. She felt a deep sense of peace, a quiet certainty that she had found her footing, despite the storms she had weathered. Larry looked over at her and smiled. You've done so well, Julie. I know Paul would be proud. Julie nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. I hope so. I want him to know that we're okay, that we're building the life he wanted for us. Larry reached over and placed a hand on hers. He knows, sweetheart. He always knew how strong you were. As Julie watched her son giggle and reach for the flowers, she realized she wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. Her life wasn't the one she had imagined, but it was beautiful in its way. She had endured heartbreak, faced impossible challenges, and emerged stronger than she ever thought possible. In her heart, Julie knew she had honored Paul's memory by creating a life filled with love and resilience. And as she gazed at her son's bright eyes, she felt an unshakable certainty, the future was theirs to build, one step at a time. Julie's story is a testament to the power of resilience, love, and finding strength in the face of unimaginable loss. Through heartbreak and trials, she not only protected her family but also built a life filled with hope and new beginnings. Her journey reminds us that even in our darkest moments, there is always a path forward, shaped by the love we carry and the courage we summon. What would you do if faced with challenges like Julie's? Could you find the strength to confront loss, stand up for your family, and embrace a future filled with uncertainty? We'd love to hear your thoughts, share them in the comments below. If you found Julie's story inspiring, give this video a thumbs up and share it with someone who could use a reminder of the power of perseverance. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming and thought-provoking stories. Hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next video, where we explore the incredible journey of a man who turned a devastating setback into a groundbreaking career.